rising the corporate transformation targets for Petronas. And surprise, surprise, it's no different than I think a lot more organizations. It's always around cost, around gaining operational efficiency. As I mentioned, they have a target by 2025. So they were giving themselves 5 years to go from whatever the baseline of 2020 to take out 50% of the cost or inefficiency in the system, whether it's from the way that they explore for oil and gas, how they refine, how they distribute oil and gas products, all of those things. How can they take inefficiencies out and then put back all that value to their balance sheet, right? So by 2025, so they gave themselves only 60 months to achieve that. That's one. The second aspect, as I mentioned before, is in terms of revenue growth, right? Because hydrocarbon is a depleting resource. How can they still remain relevant in the next 50 years through potential new revenue streams, which digital innovations can play a part? And as mentioned, sustainability as well, as they decarbonize, how can they really accelerate to this net zero carbon ambition by 2050? And so this is what MFT 1530, right? 50% cost reduction, 30% of new revenue by 2030, and zero carbon by 2050. And so, obviously, from partnership perspective, AWS is thinking about offering the most innovative cloud offering, but technology is not the main challenge, right? And of course, there's also regulation that I'll speak about briefly. But the CEO of Petronas, Tengku Taufik, I think already saw it from his position that the biggest challenge is really about the mindset and also about future-proofing his 48,000 organization, right? And so his commitment was, I do have these corporate ambitions, but in order to mobilize the entire engine of Petronas 48,000 employees, I gotta leverage all the innovative capabilities of my resources, whether they're IT, non-IT, upstream, downstream. I want to harness all this potential of my talent. And in order to do that, we embarked on a journey with them around digital skilling. So we use AWS TNC function. We've gone through a lot of foundational cloud learnings, not just for IT, but also for the non-IT population. So in the 7 years of journey at Petronas, we've trained thousands of the organizations. Again, not just IT, across the board, because this broad-based cloud awareness, cloud understanding is super important to be able to transform the whole organization for the future. Beyond that, on the mindset, as I said, Petronas saw the power of being customer-centric, and they love about the fact that the whole Amazon mission is about working backwards from the customer. They want to instill them on their own organization, and they do that not by asking the team from the ground up to be customer-centric, to try to be innovative. They started from the top. So we embarked on this journey of creating what we call innovation engine in Petronas, by enabling their top leadership and then creating trainers within their organization to know how to be very customer-centric and how to basically work backwards from their end customers' pain points, right? And along the way, debate any kind of new ideas that they have with regards to service, product, and then potentially create commercial business out of it. So throughout this process, it took about 18 months. So we've enabled, again, started from the CEO as the first cohort of 14 executives that we trained in terms of Amazon working backwards, culture of innovation, giving them the tool of innovation, so on and so forth, down to the entire organization. And through this process as well, we've trained 30 what we call trainers or coaches to drive that same innovation in functions like supply chain, in finance, so on and so forth, right? And so this is the first foundation that was laid out by the CEO to start with a mindset, to start with the people first, and create this innovation engine so that the organization as a whole can deliver towards the cost, growth, and also sustainability targets I mentioned before. Now, I'm gonna go to the cost, but you notice that I put sustainability as well, because whenever we talk about cost, there's also this kind of like a double effect on sustainability, because when they look at cost, the first function that they look at is on the IT. Again, when we started this, Petronas was already a 45-year-old organization. So it is a pretty aged organization at that point. So a lot of traditional practices, they use a lot of on-prem stuff. And so the first thing was to prove that they can modernize their IT organization, right, and practices by adopting cloud. But at the same time, when they do that, they realize that their utilization of compute, servers, and all that is also further optimized, because when you use cloud pay-as-you-go basis, your utilization is always high. And on average, they see an 80% reduction of their carbon footprint by using workloads on the cloud, as opposed to having their own dedicated data centers, right? And so they have this double effect of cost improvement by moving their IT workloads to the cloud, and also reducing their carbon footprint. One example that I want to start with, again, we have a lot of examples at Petronas, but at the start, because of the concern with moving workloads to the cloud, they wanted to start with their downstream business, because the upstream business has a lot more sensitive data with the production rates, the geology and geophysics data, or GNG data. So they started because there was also a need at that point for Petronas to go globally for their downstream business. And so their Petronas Lubricant subsidiary is in charge of basically selling all their petroleum products